Elon Musk's youngest child, nicknamed X, lives a childhood that feels more like a cinematic adventure than a normal upbringing. From the earliest days of Donald Trump's presidency, X was reportedly a constant presence around the White House. Moving through the Oval Office as if it were a second home, he enjoyed perks most people will never see up close, splashing in the always heated indoor pool, watching cartoons in the private movie theater with its massive screen and surround sound, and running through the Rose Garden's perfectly manicured lawns as if it were a personal playground. On occasion, he may have even peeked into the Situation Room while Elon spoke with Trump, absorbing the atmosphere of power and history at an age when most kids are still learning their ABCs. These rare spaces became part of his everyday environment, turning childhood curiosity into a non-stop adventure from infancy. X's life has been defined by extreme mobility and luxury. Just months old, he was spotted flying on private jets between SpaceX launches in Texas and Tesla factories in California, often aboard Gulfstream G650s worth tens of millions of dollars. These flights weren't just transportation, but experiences in themselves, with plush leather interiors, custom seating, and in-flight entertainment designed for toddlers. What would be an extravagant once-in-a-lifetime trip for most families was simply daily commuting for Elon. Even his name, inspired by aircraft designations, artificial intelligence, and unknown variables, signaled that a conventional life was never part of the plan. The pace only intensified at Starbase in Boca Chica, Texas, where X regularly tags along for SpaceX launches. He reportedly watches Falcon 9 rockets ignite the sky from a specially prepared viewing bunker equipped with screens showing real-time data and stocked with snacks, all designed with family safety in mind. Elon has said that X goes everywhere with him, which paints a picture of a child wandering launch pads, touching rocket prototypes worth billions, and experiencing what amounts to a personalized space camp. At Tesla gigafactories in places like Austin or Shanghai, X accompanies Elon on inspections, riding safely through massive factory floors in custom carts while watching Cybertrucks and other vehicles come together. Factory workers and online commenters have even suggested that X has his own small corner office with toy models, turning industrial spaces into elaborate play zones. Political appearances add another layer to his unusual upbringing. 10 has been seen at rallies and major events, including a high-profile appearance at a Trump event in Manhattan in 2025, where he waved from the stage in a custom outfit. These moments put him face-to-face with world leaders, massive crowds, and Secret Service protection, blending childhood with public spectacle. Between political stops, the family reportedly retreats to ultra-luxury destinations. From private Hawaiian island rentals to European trips tied to Tesla's Berlin factory, staying in suites that cost more per night than many people earn in a year. 4X. This isn't vacation, it's simply life. His toys match the scale of his experiences. By the age of 5, X's playthings reportedly resemble props from a science fiction movie. Customized electric ride-ons inspired by Tesla designs, prototype mini Cybertrucks with voice controls, and child-sized robotic companions modeled after Optimus demonstrations. These aren't just toys, but experimental gadgets designed to teach problem-solving and spark curiosity. His wardrobe is equally extravagant, filled with designer outfits, SpaceX-themed jackets with built-in heaters, and tech-infused accessories. VR and AR systems let him explore Mars or drive virtual Teslas, while 3D printers allow him to create custom toys at home. Even pets and memorabilia, from rare animals to framed rocket debris, add to a toy empire reportedly worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. All of this comes wrapped in an intense security apparatus. X's daily life is protected by former Special Forces bodyguards, armored vehicles, AI-powered surveillance systems, and secure panic rooms. After a widely reported stalker incident near Los Angeles in 2022, security measures were reportedly upgraded even further, including armored cars, wearable trackers, and coordinated protocols with authorities at public events. The cost of keeping X safe is said to run into the millions annually, creating a tightly controlled bubble around his adventures. Education for X doesn't resemble traditional schooling. Instead, it's described as an immersive, experience-driven, system-blending private tutors, Elon's experimental Ad Astra School, VR simulations, and hands-on lessons at SpaceX and Tesla facilities. He reportedly learns physics by watching launches, engineering by assembling models with real engineers, and leadership by observing high-level meetings. Every trip becomes a lesson, every environment a classroom, shaping him for a future deeply tied to technology and innovation. In contrast, his sister X's life is portrayed as more artistic and low-key, shaped by Grimes' creative influence. Her experiences lean toward music festivals, art-focused travel, and quiet retreats, with tools designed for imagination rather than engineering. Her toys center on music, AI-assisted art, and immersive creative play, while her education emphasizes expression and experimentation. Security is present but more discreet, allowing her to explore creativity away from constant public attention. Not all of Elon Musk's children share these fairy tale narratives. Vivian Jenna Wilson, formerly Xavier Musk, has spoken openly about a painful and estranged relationship with her father. Despite growing up surrounded by wealth, she has described feeling unsupported during her gender transition and ultimately chose to legally change her name and distance herself from Elon entirely. Her story stands in stark contrast to the younger siblings' highly curated, privilege-filled lives, highlighting the emotional complexity behind the public image of the Musk family. Other children follow yet different paths. Technomechanicus, often described as more introverted, is said to focus on math, AI, and quiet intellectual exploration, while twins like Strider and Azure are portrayed as collaborative learners immersed in Neuralink-inspired environments. The youngest children experience early exposure to technology through advanced nursery tools, while the older siblings, now adults, pursue independent lives in college, art, music, and science. Gradually stepping out of their father's shadow, taken together, the lives of Elon Musk's children form a spectrum rather than a single story. Some are immersed in public power, innovation, and spectacle from infancy. Others grow within creative or intellectual bubbles, and a few have chosen distance and independence. It's a reminder that even within extraordinary wealth and access, childhood experiences can differ wildly, and not every story in this family is a fairy tale. As the children grow older, the contrast between their paths becomes even sharper, revealing how one family can splinter into radically different worlds under the same famous surname. For the younger kids still closely orbiting Elon, life continues to revolve around labs, factories, and futuristic visions. Daily routines blur the line between parenting and prototyping. Breakfasts double as meetings where engineers and executives talk shop while small hands play with napkins, markers, or toy rockets that mirror real projects in development. Elon has joked publicly that some of his best ideas start as doodles. And in this environment, even a child's curiosity feels like raw material for innovation. The message is subtle but constant. This is a family where ideas matter, speed matters, and the future is always the priority. Yet that intensity has a cost. Being everywhere, seeing everything, and growing up inside power corridors means these kids rarely experience anonymity. Even casual outings require coordination, security sweeps, and contingency plans. Playgrounds aren't public parks, but secured estates. Friends are often the children of employees, executives, or people vetted far in advance. An normal childhood. Mistakes happen under watchful eyes, sometimes with cameras, sometimes with the knowledge that anything unusual could become headline material. It creates a strange duality: total freedom within controlled boundaries, adventure wrapped in constant supervision. For X especially, the public attention is impossible to ignore. Viral clips, memes, and commentary have already turned him into a recognizable figure before he's old enough to understand what fame really means. Moments that might have been private interrupting meetings, speaking out of turn, reacting honestly, are dissected online as symbols of Elon's parenting style or projections of his future. Some see it as charming, others as troubling, but either way, it reinforces the idea that X is growing up as a character in a global narrative, not just a child. Meanwhile, the quieter siblings benefit from distance. Those raised primarily by Grimes are kept largely out of the spotlight, experiences slower rhythm. Creativity replaces constant motion. Art replaces factories. Music, painting, and storytelling become the main languages instead of code and engineering diagrams. Their environments are still privileged, still expensive, still highly protected, but the emotional tone is different. Instead of preparing for leadership in tech empires, they are encouraged to explore identity, imagination, and expression. It's a softer counterbalance to Elon's relentless forward drive. The older children, now largely adults, offer a glimpse of what happens after the whirlwind of a Musk childhood settles. Many have deliberately chosen lower profiles, focusing on education, personal interests, or careers that don't directly mirror their fathers. Some study engineering or physics, inevitably compared to Elon, while others lean toward music, art, or writing as a way to define themselves outside his orbit. For them, the luxury of childhood trips and elite access is remembered with mixed emotions: gratitude blended with pressure, opportunities shadowed by expectations. Family dynamics remain complicated. Multiple mothers, differing parenting philosophies, And public disputes have created emotional distance between siblings, who technically share the same father but grew up in entirely different worlds. Holidays, milestones, and gatherings aren't simple reunions, but logistical puzzles layered with history and unresolved tension. Wealth cushions many hardships, but it doesn't erase feelings of abandonment, resentment, or confusion about identity. In some cases, it may even amplify them, because there's no clear villain, only mismatched needs and values playing out on a very public stage. Security continues to be a defining feature of life for all of them. Even those who step away from Elon's immediate circle can't fully escape the risks tied to his name. Threats, stalkers, and online harassment remain background noise, shaping decisions about where to live, how visible to be, and how much of themselves to share publicly. Dependence comes with caution. Freedom is negotiated, not absolute. Emerges from all these parallel stories is a portrait of modern ultra-wealth that goes far beyond money. Access replaces childhood scarcity, but it also replaces simplicity. Instead of wondering what they might become, many of Elon Musk's children grow up, surrounded by assumptions about who they are supposed to be: innovator, artist, heir, rebel, prodigy. Each role carries its own weight. Is not to fit? Any of them can feel like an act of defiance. In the end, their lives underline a truth that often gets lost in fascination with billionaires and power. Privilege doesn't produce a single outcome. Some children thrive in extraordinary environments, turning access into confidence and skill. Others struggle under the same conditions, craving normalcy more than opportunity. The Musk children, taken together, reflect the full spectrum: wonder and pressure, inspiration and estrangement, possibility and cost. Their stories are less about rockets, factories, or politics, and more about how growing up inside history and they can shape a person long before they have a chance to choose their own path as time moves on. The biggest question hovering over all of these lives isn't about money or access, but identity. When your childhood is built inside boardrooms, launch pads, studios, and political arenas, it becomes difficult to separate who you are from what you represent. For Elon Musk's younger children, especially X, the line between being a kid and being a symbol is already thin. Every appearance sparks commentary about legacy, grooming, or destiny, as if the future has already been written for him. That pressure doesn't come from Elon alone, but from the world watching, projecting, and speculating in real time. Elon himself often frames this closeness as intentional. He has said repeatedly that he wants his children around him, seeing how things are built, understanding how decisions are made, and absorbing first principles thinking from the start. In his view, exposure is education. Curiosity should never be delayed, and children are capable of far more than society assumes. For some kids, that philosophy can be empowering. Being trusted, included, and treated as capable can accelerate confidence and learning in ways traditional schooling never could. But there's another side to that approach. Constant proximity to high-stakes work leaves little room for separation. When your parents' stress, controversies, and ambitions are always in the room, childhood can quietly become performative. Even joy risks becoming productive. Play turns into learning moments, trips turn into experiences. Free time turns into preparation. Over years, that can shape a mindset where worth is tied to output, ideas, or future impact rather than simply being. This is where the contrast between siblings becomes especially telling. Those raised with more distance from Elon's daily grind often appear to have more emotional space to explore who they are without immediate expectations. Creativity, introversion, rebellion, or even rejection of the family narrative become possible paths. Vivian's estrangement, while painful in public, is also a form of boundary setting. It's a declaration that access and wealth are not substitutes for emotional safety or acceptance. Her choice underscores something wealth can't buy: alignment between identity and environment. Among the older children, independence has become the quiet goal. They benefit from enormous financial cushions. But many intentionally choose modest lifestyles compared to what's available to them. This isn't necessarily rejection of their father, but a way to reclaim authorship over their lives. When your last name opens every door, choosing which doors not to walk through becomes an act of self-definition. Some channel that into startups, some into art, some into research, and some into staying mostly invisible. Public perception, however, rarely allows for nuance. Online narratives flatten these lives into caricatures: the golden child, the neglected child, the genius, the rebel. In reality, these roles shift over time. A child raised at launchpads may later crave quiet anonymity. An artist raised in seclusion may later step into public life. Nothing is fixed, despite how early exposure makes it seem. childhood circumstances influence direction, but they don't lock it in forever. There's also the question of emotional inheritance. Elon's intensity, risk tolerance, and obsession with scale are legendary. Those traits built companies that reshaped industries, but they also shape family dynamics. We walk. I like wheel we walk while I will I we will I 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 wait we wait we say what to when walk when will what I please wish we will is normal, sleep is optional, and criticism is part of progress. Some will internalize that as strength. Others may eventually need to unlearn it to find balance. Neither outcome is failure. They're adaptations as the youngest children grow. The world around them will change too. Political eras shift. Tech narratives evolve. Public fascination fades and resurges. What feels inevitable now may look very different in 20 years. The idea that any of these kids are destined to run companies, lead Mars colonies, or become cultural icons ignores how often people redefine themselves once they gain distance from their upbringing. The most powerful choice they may eventually make is deciding which parts of their childhood to keep and which to leave behind. In the end, the Musk family story isn't just about extreme wealth or futuristic ambition. It's about how children absorb the values, conflicts, and contradictions of the adults who raise them. Some will turn proximity to power into purpose, others will turn away from it entirely. Wow. And some will spend years sorting out which parts of that world truly belong to them. The real story isn't written in private jets, factories, or headlines. It unfolds later, quietly, when each child finally has the space to decide who they are without an audience watching.